Wait till I get a couple of viewers in here, and then I'll announce you. Days to Christmas already.
Ugh, it's crazy. This year's been crazy.
It has, and like I said, it's been a real eye-opener for, I think, for a lot of sellers that sell on Amazon. I mean, Amazon, if nothing else, if people didn't think Amazon was serious, if they weren't coming in until after the 19th, I thought that was pretty serious.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see if they continue that, if they start doing something like that where only new sellers can come in quarterly, or because I can see them doing that as well.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we got quite a few viewers in here already, so we're going to get started. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Pro Seller Talk. My guest tonight is none other than my good friend Robyn Johnson. I have spent time with Robyn out at CESs. I've spent time with her in up in Seattle at Skull, and when we get together, we always brainstorm and think of things. So I'm real excited to bring her on tonight. And she has a lot of knowledge. What she does is truly tremendous. I mean, she's a woman of caring. She really cares about helping other people, and I love the fact that that's the kind of person that she is. And she's got some real good insight and valuable things she wants to discuss tonight. And at the end, guys, just for you guys that are on this webinar, she has a special offer that she's put together just for this webinar. So I'm real excited about her being able to offer that to my audience too. And again, I was just going to introduce her. Hey, Robyn, good to see you. How are you?
Good to see you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, and I hope I can provide a lot of value.
There's no doubt you will. you always do.
I try to. So, because, I think that especially with, all of the restrictions that Amazon has been, coming through, we talked about this with not only the brand gating restrictions and the category restrictions, but also the changes that they've had in storage fees. A lot of us are going to have to really take a moment and look far enough ahead in our business to really anticipate what is it that's going to actually cause us to be successful long term on Amazon, and the things that got us to the point that we are now, or the things that maybe got the people that we look up to a certain point, may no longer be the best strategy. That doesn't mean they don't work. It just might not be the ideal strategy under today's circumstances. So I'm kind of excited to talk about kind of where things are going, and in my opinion, and again, it's only my opinion, and they what they say about opinions, everybody's got one. They're like something else. But that wholesale is something that I think that a lot of sellers had struggled with before. And really, I'm going to be completely honest with you, some of the people that have been the most affected by the brand gating have been people who had considered themselves wholesale buyers. So, it's not just people who have been doing retail arbitrage that have been affected. And I'm sure, John, that you've seen pretty much the same thing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of that.
So, I think that, one of the things that has changed in the way, we're going to be doing a webinar called Wholesale in a Whole New World. And one of the things that there's some types of wholesale that just don't work as well as they used to. Doesn't mean you can't do them. It just means that there's a slight amount of risk. Now, increased risk. Now, the same is true of retail arbitrage. There is an increased risk in retail arbitrage than there was maybe, 4 years ago, when what really was like not only the wild, wild west, it was like the wild, 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 wild west, where you could really do anything. And so if you are a person that says, if I can't do retail arbitrage, I'm out. Then that's fine. And then I think you should keep playing, try to build up and make sure that you're self-insuring, making in what you're doing to make sure that you have capital to be able to pivot if Amazon was to make a change. Inventory control is going to be super important no matter what business model you use, making sure you don't have too much inventory at Amazon so that you have that ability to pivot. And then having some wholesale items that I think if you feel like you want to be long-term on Amazon, like you plan on selling on Amazon for the next 3 to 5 years, then you need to start looking into wholesale or private label. And when I say wholesale, I mean directly from the manufacturer, where you have an honest and open relationship with them. So there's a couple of things that used to work that no longer work. So when I first did the Proven Wholesale course with Jim Cockrum, one of the things that Nathan and I discussed was maybe having a buying company and a selling company. Well, that just won't work anymore. And the reason for that is, in order to get that brand approval, and it can happen. We've had it happen on very small brands that you've never even heard of, brands with, very tiny niches. So you have to be able to have not only the relationship with the wholesaler, but you need to have the invoices and the data on those invoices match your seller, what's in your Seller Central account. Now, one of the questions people ask is, does that mean that I need to have my store name and my LLC name be the same? No, but on those invoices, you do want to clarify, that this is my store name, this is the LLC name. Make sure that, if it says in your Amazon Seller Central account that your address is Highway 87, and you abbreviated that capital H, capital G, W, Y, then it needs to be exactly like that on the billing address for those invoices. You can still have a shipping address, use something like My Inventory Team, something along those lines, but you need to make sure that you have that. And you also need to make sure that the brand knows who you are and knows who you're selling on Amazon, and they value you as a wholesale client, because that's what's going to really allow you to say, I need that letter of authorization. And that letter of authorization is it's going to cause some of you to have to really push past maybe some of the skill sets that you have already, because you're going to have to really present yourself as somebody who can help your brand. So I want to talk first about the benefits of wholesale, why I think that everybody who plans on being in wholesale, or that being here, should think about wholesale, and how I think wholesale is actually a great way to get some practice before moving on to private label. So if you're a low risk tolerance person like me, then if you might not be ready to jump straight into private label, but finding and helping emerging brands is basically, somebody else is fronting the inventory for you, but you're doing the marketing. And then once you have some success in that, you're going to be able to feel like, okay, well, now I know that I can identify a winning product. I know how to create and launch that product. So now I feel a little more comfortable in investing in creating my own product. One thing that I think that has become increasingly dangerous, as far as if you're looking for what's the highest risk models, drop shipping from retailers, any kind of DS domination stuff, that is, I would not touch that with a 10-foot pole. I know that John wouldn't either. You need to be really careful liquidating or buying things from, if the receipt doesn't say, you bought this item and have the UPC, some way that shows a chain of custody. So that includes, we used to do a lot of shopping for toys at grocery stores. We no longer do that because it just says toy. So it's hard to prove that Barbie was a Barbie or that pie face was pie face. So, that's something that you really need to consider. And then you also need to really, if you're doing liquidation, then you need to make sure you're buying from credible sources. Just because somebody has a booth at a trade show does not necessarily mean that their items are authentic. In fact, I know somebody who was permanently banned from Amazon several years ago. She bought from somebody at ASD's floor, and she thought she was buying makeup that was authentic. Unfortunately, it wasn't, and they've been off the platform, I think, for 4 years now. So you need to make sure you're doing your due diligence, that you can show a chain of custody. But let's talk about why. Why is there a benefit in finding replens? And we teach people to find replens in 2 ways. We have a scaling retail arbitrage course which teaches you kind of how we were able to spend that $50,000, and we basically treat those retail stores like wholesalers. Except what we do is we say, if it would be almost like if that wholesaler was like, look, I want to sell to you, but I don't have time to make up the little pretty sheet. So you're going to have to come into my warehouse, and you're going to have to make your own, you're going to have to take you make your own price sheet. And so we treat them like that. And so that's allowed a lot of our clients to find things that they can sell over retail. And that's a great gateway into moving slowly into wholesale. Now, we don't recommend that anybody goes cold turkey when it comes to retail arbitrage. So when you move from one sourcing model to another, it's going to change the way that you buy, and it's going to change the way that the liquidity of your cash is, the way that cash and your inventory moves through your business. And so if you do it slowly, step by step, it's going to allow you to adjust to that. People that we see who are like, that's it, I've done the snow one too many times. I refuse. I will not go to one more Target. I will not help one more retail customer who thinks I'm an employee. That's it. I'm done. Then usually one of two things happen. They either get burned out and they feel frustrated doing wholesale and they return back to where they were, or the other thing that they do is they do well in the wholesale, but they put themselves in a cash crunch because when you're buying wholesale, there's an extended period of time. Same with private label. It extends the period of time from the time you release the money to the time it comes back in. You don't get that instant gratification. But the real benefit of moving from retail arbitrage to wholesale or replenishables in general is that what it allows you to do is free yourself from the clearance aisle. Most of you know that you need to generate a certain amount of income in order to become full-time or to stay full-time. And when you're doing clearance and you're kind of hoping, or even if you're shopping at a store like TJ Maxx and Marshall's, you basically every week you have to start at zero. So the bigger you grow, the harder you work. And the harder you work, it seems like you're not necessarily making any more money because you have to hustle and spend more and more time in those stores. Finding those replenishables allows you to actually scale your business, because imagine if you could start each week saying, you know what, I need to place $5,000 in orders, but before I even start this week, I already have 3 done. So, I already know that there's $3,000 in things that I can go back into the well over and over again, and I can restock. And so that means I only have to spend $2,000. Whereas if you're doing TJ Maxx or Marshall's, every week it's like, whew, I hope it works out. I hope there's good stock. And, there's not always going to be great stock. So it's going to take lady luck out of your business and allow you to become a little bit snobbish about your inventory. Sometimes once or twice in my life, I've emotionally eaten. Like when you get super hungry and then you start to eat whatever is available. It could be empty calories, it could be a Snickers bar, or like the giant vats of popcorn that they have at the movie theater. If you haven't eaten dinner, like you just eat too much. Sometimes when we source, we do it kind of like we emotionally eat. The first thing that kind of feels like it's going to fill up that inventory hole, we just pop it right in our cart. But when you have replenishables, you're able to say, you know what, I'm not going to buy this thing at 30% because I'm tired, because I have something that I can do 50 or 70 or 100% that's waiting for me. I just got to go place the order. I just got to go pick it up. So it's going to allow you to increase the ROI on your items, and it's going to allow you to stop emotionally eating and to start making sure that you're spending your time really focusing in on those items that are actually bringing you the most revenue. So the next question people ask, they're like, that sounds great, but I've tried wholesale and it was really hard. I couldn't get anybody to answer my question. There were no profitable companies out there. There are a lot of profitable wholesale companies, and there's new companies that are opening every day. There is still a lot of opportunity. And the tide has kind of changed. Before, people kind of brand owners viewed Amazon kind of like eBay, like that's going to hurt my brand being on that site. But now you can very confidently tell any brand owner, look, if you think you're going to be successful, you think you're going to win, at some point you're going to have to deal with Amazon. Every brand has. From the Nike to Birkenstock to Lego, they all have to deal with Amazon. And you will too, but I can help you do that. And that's my value, is that I know this crazy, weird, nuanced platform. And if you say, well, I don't have anything to offer to these wholesale vendors, you're wrong, because very few people understand how Amazon works the way that we do. And on top of that, if you're like, well, this is going to be my first wholesale client, I can't tell them that I have all this success. What you can tell them is, you know what, I'm a person of my word. Now that's assuming you are a person of your word, but I'm a person of my word, and I'm going to help you, and I'm going to be committed to your brand. And let me tell you, I don't have a lot of companies that I take on or that I have right now, so you're going to be my priority. So if you want somebody who's focused on you, then I'm your man, I'm your girl, right? So I'm your woman. And if you have a lot of skills, so if you've created listing, you run sponsored ads, sponsored products, if you're using AMS, which is Amazon's marketing systems through Vendor Express and Vendor Central, then you can offer those as well. So one the question that people have is kind of, where do I start getting leads? And we really recommend that you start one of three ways. The first one is the most traditional way, and that's to actually go to a trade show, meet some people face to face, have some conversations with people, and the fortune is in the follow-up. Follow up, follow up, follow up. If you've ever watched Shark Tank, like, and there was one year that I swear I hit like every trade show, like this side of, like pretty much everything this side of the Mississippi I hit one year. And I was like, oh, I know that guy. Every time I watched Shark Tank, I was like, oh, I met that guy. That guy didn't even bring an order form to the trade show. Where somebody would give him a criticism, I'd be like, oh, he's actually even worse in person. So meeting a lot of those people that have been on Shark Tank, most of these young brand owners, they spend everything they have on that product. They are scared, they are nervous, and they don't know what they're doing. And if they don't answer your calls, it's probably not personal. On the small brands, it's probably they lost your number and they're just so busy trying to make sure that their shipment cleared customs, they haven't had a chance to call you back. So, I always assume that until they tell me to go away, or they tell me no or yes, I'm going to keep calling them. And I always am respectful of their time, but you never put your assumption of how you feel that they are, because people will be like, oh, they didn't call me back. That means that they didn't like me. That means they don't like Amazon. And that doesn't mean any of that. It just means they didn't call you back. So one of the things that I think stops most people in wholesale from moving to retail arbitrage is that expectation. When somebody starts in retail arbitrage, you tell them scan everything, and they don't believe you. Wholesale is the same way, except instead of scanning, you're going to be contacting those companies. We have a disqualification process, which dramatically reduces the number of companies that you have to contact in order to get a quality lead. But you're still going to have to go through a lot of numbers. So going to those trade shows, or registering for a trade show and using those companies as a lead list, or you just search by niche. Starting in an area that you know something about is going to help you dramatically. So if you already are a fly fisherman, start to look at things that are hard to find for fly fishermen. I'm sorry, I've got like an itch on my eye. And then you're going to start customers who viewed this also viewed that. And you're not going to start like necessarily contacting companies, but you're going to create a list of, like, oh, that product looks cool. Oh, I've never seen that before. Start creating a list of brands, and then you're going to Google those companies, find out, go to contact them, and you're going to use the templates that, we have in the academy, or, you can, make up your own templates and start contacting them. Once you have kind of gotten that started, you can have a VA do most of this for you. So the other thing that people struggle with when they move into wholesale from retail arbitrage is they expect to be able to source the same items. If you've been primarily in the clearance aisle, you're going to need to significantly change your product mix, because most of those things in the clearance aisle, or things that you've been getting at sales from big box stores, the wholesale price is going to be more than what you've been used to paying for it. So you want to be looking for riches in the niches, find smaller companies. And those smaller companies are going to be much more open to you. They're going to have lower minimums, and you're going to be able to provide more towards them. So those are really the things that I would say when you're getting started. When you go to contact them, the most important thing, if you're going to contact them via email, is that you have a branded email, like Robyn at Best from the Nest, not joeschmo55@gmail.com, because nothing says professional like joeschmo@gmail, right? So if you want them to take you seriously as a business owner, you need to invest in a branded email address. That's the one thing that we see that really hurts people conversion rates. And I'm not kidding. This is like you will make it, you will not make it. You have to have a branded email. You don't necessarily have to have a website. You can get away with that without one, especially in certain niches like grocery. Some categories like toys, you're gonna probably need a straight e-commerce site in order to get approved for some of these. So, once you have that branded email address, email companies, and then we would say, right, wait a couple days and then call them. If you can call them or see them in person, your odds, the number of companies that you're going to have to contact to get a success are going to go down significantly. So, if you can outsource that initial contact and then really kind of follow up with that phone call, then that is really good. Going through the disqualification process that we use, what it's really allowed us to do is to kind of narrow it down to really our prime candidates, the companies that are really going to have that room for that margin that we want, but also have the sales volume that we want. So we're not contacting them until we're pretty sure that they're going to be a solid deal. Then what we can do is it gives us the option to look up their listings, maybe find some things that are wrong with their listings, correct those items, and once we correct the listings, or maybe not necessarily even correct those, maybe just print them out and highlight them. If I'm going to be at a trade show, I can say, hey, did you see there's a piece of cat poop in your listing? Or, hey, I don't know if you noticed, but you don't even have any bullet points. Or, you have bullet points, but there's no description. Did you know that the description comes up first on mobile? So it's important that you really optimize both. Here's some things that I could change for you in just a few days. So you can if you can come across and say, here's something I have of value. This is going to sound braggy. I don't mean it as a braggy thing. It's to the point now where we have companies that we've said, we've met them. And I've said, did you know that you're not ranking for this keyword? I'm going to give you a little pro tip. If you type in an ASIN plus the keyword and it says that there's no search results for that, that means that listing is not ranking for that search term. So you can say, did you know that your patriotic cell phone case is not, your American flag cell phone case is not ranking for American flag? And if you can tell them something that you are able to fix, and you're coming to them as saying, I understand your pain points. And for the most part, their pain points are they need sales, but they need to control distribution, and they need to really watch the way that their item is priced. Amazon, having somebody undercut their price on Amazon can actually completely close down their business, because what happens is let's say they've been selling well at brick and mortar stores, and brick and mortar stores have been selling it for 40. They sell a bunch to Amazon directly, and Amazon starts pricing it at 20. Well, me as a brick and mortar store, now I'm mad because Amazon's selling it for what I'm buying it for, and I see customers, I'm watching them in my store look at the item, and buying it on Amazon right in front of me, so I'm not going to reorder from them again. And now those steady sales that they were relying on now disappear, and so it can really hurt them. So we have to understand where brands are coming from. If you listen to my podcast, go back and listen to when James Thomason, the guy who's doing Prosper Show, he was on the show, and he did a really, really great job talking about what are the main things that you need to offer to brands, and controlling distribution and controlling the listing is really, really important. And once you've developed that, then now you have the ability to say, I need a letter of authorization. I need another copy of this invoice. I need another copy of this invoice, but I need you to change the billing address because I didn't realize it didn't match. So you're going to have the relationship in order to get the documentation that you need. But we've actually gotten to the point where some brand owners have been so impressed with us that they will give us the inventory. So they send us the inventory for free, and we don't pay for that inventory until it sells. So once we get our disbursement from Amazon, then we give them their cut. So we take a percentage of gross sales, and just kind of like Amazon does off the top. And then, they send it to us, we take care of it, and then we run the sponsored products, or we will enhance the listing. And then from there, they just basically get their cut. So basically, they're kind of outsourcing it to us. So those are some of the really great options that you have in order to really make things work. Now, there's a lot more to it than that, and that's why we created the Academy, so we can kind of break everything out one by one. But, that's a good place to start. And, when you're right now, it's not the best time of year to start researching because all of the numbers are a little wonky. Sales ranks are wonky. Estimated sales volumes are a little wonky because you're going to get data that's a little bit off because of Q4. So what I would recommend right now is that you really focus on developing a list of brands to contact. There's some amazing shows that are happening in January. I will be at Craft and Hobby Show and Atlanta Market Week. There's also the Fancy Food Show in San Francisco. There's a plethora in our academy. If you're in our academy already, there's a list of 250 or I think 150 or 200 trade shows that you can go to or register for. So there's always new companies that are opening up. So if you're really looking for high volume and high margin, then emerging markets are really where you want to be, because what happens is if you find a niche that's coming into its own, what that allows you to do is, if you've ever seen a kendama, we created a lot of the listings for a company called Kendama USA. They were one of the first ones, a premier in this tiny, kind of like a skater, yo-yo niche. And so we were buying them at $5, selling them at $45. We would buy, the first week we bought 1,000, the second week we bought 2,000, the third week we bought 3,000. We bought more and more and more and more. And we were buying from a couple different companies. And what we did is we basically rode the wave. And once we started to see lots of other sellers come in, then we said, oh, time to pull back. We're not going to buy as much because we see the price starting to get unstable. We see an increase in the number of sellers. So what we did is we kind of backed off. And as the price went down because of supply and demand, then we were able to not have a lot of stock where we were going to have that lower margin. But what we would do today, if we still had that opportunity, is we would try to work out some sort of controlled distribution where we'd say, we don't need to be your exclusive, because we could run out of stock. We don't want that to happen. But, we would be happy to help manage ourselves plus maybe 2 to 5 additional Amazon sellers to make sure that, things are really being controlled on the brand level for you, because if you don't control distribution, you're not going to be able to control your price. So, when it comes to those things, and I know some of you are like, I don't even know what she's talking about. I don't even know how I would start with that. That's really where you have to kind of take everything piece by piece, and it's way too much to do in one webinar. John, did I kind of overkill that? Or I don't know if he went to go get Starbucks or something. I can be kind of a chatty Cathy sometimes, so we'll see if he comes back. But I don't see any questions where I'm at, and I thought we were going to do some Q&A, so maybe he'll come back or not. So if can somebody put something in the chat, so I can't see anything in the chat right now. So, well, I guess if somebody's there, if they could put something in the chat. If not, I'll kind of go through some of the other common things that people run into with wholesale. And that is, what is, oh, thank you, you're back. No? Yes.
I'm here.
Okay. Can you see, are there any questions, or do we?
Yeah, there's a couple. One said, Ada said, how many trade shows do you attend?
So it's going to vary from year to year. You can attend no trade shows, and then you can attend. There was one year where we attended I think 9. That's when we were really kind of building up our wholesale alliance. But what I would recommend is, people ask what's a good first trade show to go to. I like ASD because you can get some education that you would normally have to pay, $2,000 to $1,000 to get at another conference. But on top of that, you have the opportunity to practice. Now, I will tell you, ASD is not the best place to source as far as the place where I rake in the most wholesale contracts. However, or, sales, but it is a great place to practice those skills. And then what I would recommend is, after you've practiced those skills, then go to a more niche kind of trade show. So something like Fancy Food or Astra or Natural Products West or Craft and Hobby, something that's going to be, the hardware store show, CES, which the consumer electronics, something that's in a niche that that's in a category you're already approved in, and really work your way through from there. What were the other questions, John? I just saw he just went over to mute again.
Yes, there's another one that says, hey, Robyn, what trade shows are best for niche sourcing? And it actually came across right when you were talking about that.
Yeah, and So one of the things that as you're doing, if you do that where you're kind of looking for brands, sometimes if you Google that company, you'll see on their contact us page, they'll be like, come see us at the weirdo trade show. And it's like some small trade show you've never heard of. Then that can be a great place to kind of start adding those to your list. And the other thing you can do, if you have a wholesale company that's like, no, we don't sell to you crazy Amazon people. We don't like you. I don't like your face. Go away. Then you can say, great. You know, we really are looking for a couple companies though that are similar to yours. Can I ask what trade shows that you attend throughout the year? And I promise I'll leave you alone. And you know, they might tell you 2 or 3 trade shows that will kind of give you companies that are in a similar area. Yeah. So, and that can really help. Or were there any other questions?
And I agree with you. When I was doing my trade shows, I did about 10 trade shows a year, and there's probably 10,000 just in the United States alone a year. So there's no way you can get to them all. And I totally agree with Robyn when Robyn says that if you're just starting out, small type trade show, you don't want to be hitting ASD as your first one unless you have someone like myself or Robyn who's taking you around on a trade show floor, who knows the ropes and has been there and can kind of experience in that learning curve and cut it down for you dramatically by their experience of being there in the past. So I agree with that. We have another question that says, some people say wholesale is much lower ROI. Is that true for you? This is from Carla.
So I actually have found that for our wholesale ROI is better than some people's retail arbitrage ROI. So again, it goes down to that emotional eating. We go through tons and tons of, I mean, I don't know if you can see that those entire drawers right there, those are completely filled with old price lists. And you know, we've gone through so many companies, it would make your eyes bleed. But because of that, we've been able to kind of get snobby about who, you know, what companies we bring on. So you can, it's kind of like retail arbitrage. People will be like, oh, you can't find anything that's 30% or more on retail arbitrage. Well, you can, you just have to look a little bit harder for it. And you know, you're going to have to, and you have to make sure that you're managing that. And one of the things about sales rank, especially when you're working with emerging brands or very, you know, sub niches, is you want to think about sales rank and the number of the sales rank and the number of number of sellers is kind of like an inverse relationship. So if something's ranked really, really awesome, so it's got a sales rank of 5,000 in toys, it's okay that there might be 200 sellers on it because it might sell, especially in Q4, it might sell 5,000 a day. So it's okay that it's splitting up. Now, if something is ranked 5 million and has 300 sellers, you might as well just give up now. It's never going to sell. But we've actually found by staying in that, like kind of like 3 to 10% of a range, everybody says, oh, stay in the top 1%, stay in the top 3%. We do the opposite. We focus on that 3 to 10%, things that do have consistent sales, but maybe we're the only FBA offer, or maybe there's only 1 or 2. So, maybe it only sells 30 times a month, but if it's just us and somebody else, we're getting, 15 to 20 of those sales. So, we're able to kind of really have this predictable pattern, and the lower the number of sellers on a listing, the less volatile that pricing is, and it allows you to. There have been wholesale items that we've carried for 3-4 years already, and that we, that have been over 100% ROI and have stayed over 100% ROI, because most people look at it and go, ugh, that rank is so gross, I wouldn't even touch that. Ugh. But we're like, that's great, you keep on walking right on by. And then there's been some things where, if you go to ASD every year, there's certain companies that you're like, oh, I looked at them. Oh, I've looked at them. Oh, I've looked at them. But if you can come in with a new, fresh eyes and say, oh, I've looked at them, but you know what? It's their listing is horrible. That's the reason it's not selling. I can fix the listing. And because we had a toy that was like ranked 2 million or something along those lines, and we brought it up to 50,000 or 20,000 in toys. But we kept it as a really great item with a great ROI, because most of the people that were regulars at this trade show, they were like, oh, I've seen that company, they're no good. They don't sell well. They don't sell well. Well, they didn't sell well when the listing was bad, but little did they know we had fixed the listing and run some sponsored products, and now it was ranking really, really well. So there's more than one way to skin a cat, and you can get really great ROIs from wholesale, but it's going to take time and patience. And don't put so much pressure on your first show. The first time you go on a date, you're probably not going to marry that person. So, you kind of want to have that same, you kind of want to think a little bit about dating as you go to wholesale, because people are like, oh, should I get the exclusive? I need to get the exclusive. You have to think about it. Anybody who would, like, if I just met John, like I don't think either of us were ever on Tinder, because both of us have been married so long. But let's say both of us were on Tinder and we met at Starbucks, and John was like, you just seem really nice. Would you marry me? Anybody that would say yes to you, you do not want to marry. So anybody who will give you an exclusive after only talking to you for 30 seconds, probably not the best lead anyway. And exclusives are almost impossible to enforce unless unless that brand wants to keep it enforced. So what we almost never ask for exclusives, they just give them to us. So we'll call to reorder, and they'll say, oh, by the way, we're not allowing any Amazon sellers, but you guys have always been cool, so don't worry about it. And when you get those young emerging brands, they're so grateful that you help them get their start. And you can tell them, this is what worked, with another company. As you start to get that experience, you're going to provide a lot of value to them. And people in general are very loyal, and they will remember that. And that's one of the reasons why I think it's good for you to start in a niche you already know about. Because if you if we started with the very first item we carried, and we have not carried this item forever. So if you try to go look and see if our seller name is it, we haven't carried this in years. But we carried this creepy doll. People either loved it or they hated it. There was firestorms on Facebook about it. And it was this doll that you put the little girl would put a little apron on, and then if you brought the doll close, it would go to nurse. It was a breastfeeding doll. And it was a weird thing, but it allowed us, because I was young, a young mom. I was a nursing mom. I already knew a lot of other moms that would want this. So if you start with a niche that then you're going to be able to give them valuable, basically, product research that they might not otherwise have access to. So, and then once let's say if I start, and then we started to carry a lot of other specialty toy lines, and we were able to say, there was one trade. We were at Astra, which is a specialty toy show. You have to have very thick skin to make it at Astra. There's a lot of Amazon haters there, but there was one guy, and he was like, no, absolutely no Amazon. I was like, oh, that's all right. Can I just play your game real quick? And so we were playing and talking, and I was like, I really think I could help you. And if you don't believe me, Susan's right over there. We've been carrying her product for a year. You can go, let's go over and ask her. Tell her, she'll tell you I've never dropped below map ever. And, and then once I had him, then, there was, I was able to use him as a resource. And so a lot of these retailers, these manufacturers, they're all in very small, tight-knit communities. So if you can make an impression on one, they'll refer you to other companies as well.
Don has a question too. He wants to know what procedure you have to go through to take control of a listing to be able to make changes.
So great question. So if they are not brand registered, you can just all you have to do is submit a ticket. When you want to use either the graphical interface, kind of like how you do where you list it manually, where you put the 1 or 2. You're gonna go into that same interface. You're gonna try to make the changes. And then make sure you save it all in a Word or Excel document. If you are familiar with flat files seem to take better than the web interface. Once you attempt to do that, because you need to make it an effort first, otherwise seller support won't help you, then you can submit a ticket to have it changed. Now, when you submit that ticket, you want to make it harder for them to say no than it is to say yes. So if you're going to change the title from SpongeBob SquarePants Underwater Basket Making Kit to, you know, SpongeBob SquarePants underwater basket making kit plus something else, then you want to say, you know, in order to, I love this, I always use, in order to enhance the customer experience, because Amazon's customer obsessed, you know, we recommend that the title of this item be changed from this to this. Here's the manufacturer's listing on their website where it shows this is the correct title or this is the correct size. Here is the side of the box that shows that this is actually a feature. Here is the item on a scale that shows the actual weight. And so it actually makes it harder for them to say no to you than it does to say yes. That's what you want to do in your seller support tickets. Now, if they are already brand registered, then you can prepare the flat file for them, or you could find the data and have them. If they're brand registered, they probably know how to make that change themselves. If they're not brand registered, you can always become their brand registered agent. There's documentation on that in the seller support. Just type in the help section, just type brand registry. Near the bottom, there's a form you'll need to have them sign.
Yeah, and I agree with you too, Robyn. When you're looking at changing you know, a listing, if you have access to that product and you can provide images go a long way with Amazon. When you can show them, here's the image of what it should say, and here's the image of what the bullet points should be and what the description should be, they're more or less going to want to change it to the right way than what's actually in the listing. So anything that you have in your arsenal that you can provide to them, especially documentation, is huge with Amazon. They like it when you provide those images and they can read the title and see that, okay, oh, that UPC does go with this, and they just like that, and they will make changes for you.
And, you know, that actually goes for all tickets. So if you're trying to get feedback removed, if you're trying, whatever you're trying to do. So if you can say, you know, this feedback needs to, because like maybe the automatic, because, you know, kind of does the automatic process now. And sometimes you have to kind of fill out the ticket if you have to kind of reapply. If you say, per this policy, this is violating this policy, and that is why it should be removed. Because you have to remember that the people that answer those tickets, the turnover is incredible. Most of them just do not have the knowledge of the platform the way that we do. So if you can show them in the documentation where that is, it's going to really help your case. It's going to make their life easier. And then speaking to them politely, remembering that they're human beings, and you know, they're probably just as frustrated as you. Amazon pushes people pretty hard. So treating them like a human being, trying to make their job, you know, easier, those are things that are all going to go well. And you know, if it does get escalated, you know, if you look like you've been a jerk, they're probably going to be a little less likely to help you. So it's going to be easier all the way around if you can not only be respectful to the reps, but make sure you provide the proper documentation to make it easier for them to do what you need them to do.
Yeah, and another thing, having that we have a, you know, and I'm not bragging, because like Robyn, this is not about bragging, this is just about what we do. But we have 100% lifetime, no negatives feedback, and we're a large volume seller. And one of the ways that we do that is, like Robyn said, we kill them with kindness. We always, whenever we open up a ticket or speak to an Amazon rep on the phone, we always kill them with kindness. We always tell them how much we appreciate everything we do and how we value them. And then we go into the spiel of what's wrong with the feedback and go through our point of view. And a lot of times, and this is a secret that a lot of people don't know, if you get a negative feedback from a customer and the customer has the product, you just ask Amazon if they can provide you images to you know, or item that actually went there, because of everything that's, you know, with the platforms where they can I can't think of the word. What's the word that we don't do? Not labeling, the other word. What's it? I can't even think right. What? Commingling. I couldn't even think of commingling. Commingling. So, and 9 out of 10 times, I can tell you, and mostly on 10 times, they can't provide those images. They're going to remove that feedback because they're not going to know that they're 100% right or you're 100% wrong. So they will remove feedback like that. And we've been very successful. Like what Robyn said, you have to do your homework. And the biggest thing is they're a human being just like us. And you want to treat them like you value them and what they do for your business. And not only for your business, you value them for what they do for the marketplace and how they keep it a safe place for sellers and buyers. And when you go that route in feedback to try to get it removed, it's just amazing the results you can get when you start treating them like a human being, because they're already getting beat up by all the other sellers and all the other people on the platform, because everybody's calling up and saying, why did I get this negative, and why this happened, and why that happened. You value them, and you understand that, you know what, these things can happen, but you're trying to make it better. And, you know, if you're like me, you say, you know what, I have 100% lifetime feedback. We don't do things like this. We do only brand new products. And you'd be surprised when you work with them, the kind of results you get than if you try to work against them.
And if you can, you know, make sure that you're avoiding any kind of English slang, avoid any abbreviations, even if it's an Amazon abbreviation. Because, you know, you have to remember that most of them, they're not learning American English. They've learned Indian English. There are some of them that are, you know, US-based reps, but there's a lot of them that aren't. So make it really clear. Make sure that you're patient with them, and you know, the same goes with really anybody that you're dealing with. Even if you decide to stay in retail arbitrage, just being nice to the cashiers, you would be surprised the doors that opens up for you.
Yeah. And Robert, I got a real good question for you too. And I know a lot of people here probably want to know this answer, because we all know that a lot of people say, I don't want to go into wholesale, because if I go into wholesale, there's no margins. I can't make money with wholesale. I see it all the time in the forums where they come up and they say, I tried wholesale and I just can't make any money. I don't know how people are making money. There's no profit in wholesale. And I know my answer to it, but I'd like to know, and they probably want to know your side of it. And I know the bundling question, and I know that you're more niche driven, which helps it a lot because your competition is less. You tell the audience, as far as those that are out there that are saying that you can't make money with wholesale because there's less margins.
You can't make money in wholesale because there's no margins. If you're trying to sell Spalding basketballs and Mattel toys and Hasbro, unless you're getting them at some sort of liquidation price. Now, there is, if you want to, most of our wholesale items, even when we were taking the lowest ROI we ever took on a wholesale item was 40%, but the majority of them are 70%, and a good chunk of them are over 100%. The margins are there, and you know, some of them that, you know, especially if you have the capital to go into a little bit of a higher priced item, then you know that's going to even help you even more. So saying that there are people who say you can't make money in doing retail arbitrage, there's just nothing left. And for those people, that occurs like the truth. And there's people who say that about wholesale, and for them, that occurs as the truth. But John, myself, Dan and Eric, Eddie Levine, there's hundreds of us in the community, and there's thousands of us that are outside of the community that don't know that we exist, that have been growing profitable businesses doing wholesale for a very long time. Do you have to move a little bit beyond Oil of Olay and Hasbro? Yes. You know, but is there still an amazing opportunity? You guys, there's so much, and there's so many brands that are so eager and desperate for information on how to move their product, because they invested everything in getting the product developed, and now they need to sell it. So, you know, I think that, you know, there are a lot of things that have happened in the last 6 months and will happen in the next 6 months that will shake a lot of people, that this business, they were just doing it because it was they thought it was easy cash. They're going to disappear. And that's okay. You know, this isn't a long-term thing for everybody, and some people just use this to build up capital to do what they really want, you know, and that's completely okay. That's how business works. But I think that one of the things that you do want to think about is, you know, if I can become masterful at what I do, if I can provide something, and maybe I don't feel like I'm the expert yet, but I could be. There's an interesting statistic that I heard, I think it was on a podcast, and I don't have it handy, but I've used it a couple times, and they were looking at, you know, when women go to apply to a job, they need to be 100% qualified. They need to match all of those qualifications in order to apply for the job, whereas men typically, as long as they're at least 60% qualified, they'll apply for the job. So especially for those women out there, or for those of you who are maybe, you know, you're not, like, bold isn't like your adjective of choice. You need to take that bold, because what's going to happen is somebody else who's willing to say that they can do things that they can't, instead of you being honest and saying, you know what, I don't know how to do that, but I will learn and I will be great at it for you. What's going to happen is they're going to have somebody else sell their stuff on Amazon wholesale, somebody who doesn't care about their company as much, somebody who doesn't know as much about Amazon as you do. And it's because you weren't willing to put yourself out there. If you think that your product or service makes a difference for people, you're actually doing them a disservice by not making it available for them to purchase or making it available for them to work with you. So, be bold, be sassy, take the swing. I mean, worst case scenario, people get to laugh at you and you failed and you come out stronger and wiser and you can do something else. And if you're going to fail fast so you can find something else that is your strength. If you're going to spend this time away from your kids, away from your family, away from your grandkids or your friends, play full out. Life is too short to waste it doodadding and things. Give it everything you got or go home. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean that with like a lot of love.
There's another question here, and I know the answer to this too, because you and I have been doing this for a while. It says, do you create bundles using products from multiple suppliers? And that's Barbara, and that's an excellent question.
So if you are going to do bundles, I love doing bundles with mixed suppliers, especially if I can find something that's only available retail and a wholesale source, because so basically anything that you can do that lazy sellers won't do, that gives you an advantage. Now, when you're creating bundles, everything needs to sell well on its own. You're going to need to make sure that you're complying with the new UPC rules, all of that. But mixing brands, yeah, and making sure that the whole point of the bundle, though, is to provide more value to the customer. So where people go wrong in bundles is they say, well, I have this product. I have this product. And I want to take this product and I want to sell it with something else. I'm going to sell it with this. This provides no value to this buyer. That's where people go wrong in bundles. So if you have a bundle that is for maybe a dog bowl, and then with your green dog bowl, you put an I Love Boxers coffee mug. You've now limited the people that will buy your dog bowl to people who have boxers. However, if you have a dog bowl, a green dog bowl with a yellow placemat that would be great for somebody who loves the Packers, then now you've provided value where, maybe it's a new puppy kit, but more specifically than a new puppy kit, because there's a zillion of those, having a new Cocker Spaniel kit, because each breed has different needs. They're going to need different size leashes. There are going to be some things, that some dogs are more playful, some dogs need special grooming tools. So finding and mastering a niche is going to be part of really being successful in bundling when it comes to wholesale or retail arbitrage.
Great answer. Carla says, are you mostly making new listings or finding things already there that you just improved the listings? And that's a great question.
So like Dan and Eric don't create listings. We create listings like people change underwear. I mean, we love creating new listings. We love bringing new items to market. Now, we don't bring items willy-nilly to market. So we don't just be like, oh, it's not on Amazon, let me bring it, because not everything is meant for Amazon. So what we do is we look and say, has it sold well on Amazon UK? Has it sold well on eBay? Does it sell well on their own site? And they're going to lie to you sometimes. So use something. There's tools like SEMrush and SpyFu where you can see what kind of traffic they're getting, what kind of keywords they're getting. I'm going to look at things like if they say we have the best cookies in the world and we just need to get them out to the world, and then I go to their Yelp page, and on their Yelp page they have two-star reviews. They do not have the best cookies in the world. So they're not going to sell as well as they think they are in their mind. So we look at the keyword search volume. We look at how similar items are going, if these paleo, gluten-free, vegan, chocolate chip cookies are selling, and we see that there's something that's similar, we're going to say, okay, well, this is a similar item, and this is how it's selling, this is how it's ranking. This is an inferior or superior product, so we can kind of see that it's probably going to have sales in around this neighborhood. So so when when somebody's new to wholesale, I don't recommend that you start out bringing new items to the market, because you're not gonna be able to tell, did I buy the wrong item, or is there something wrong with the product, with the listing or something along those lines. So I would recommend starting with bringing, items that already have some sales data to them, and then after you feel confident that you can make that decision, start with one or two items that you feel really strongly about. And we don't recommend that you come back from a trade show with more than 3 SKUs to create new listings for, because it can really back up your inventory and processing.
That's a great answer too. For someone starting out that wants to start out in wholesale and can't get to a trade show, I know there's a book out there, No Show Trade Show. Do you recommend that they actually go on to Amazon and look at products that they see that maybe they're well down in the niche that they can bring to market, and see if they can actually find a supplier for those products?
I think it depends on your personality type. I hate online arbitrage. So doing the trade show no show where you click click click, like that makes me like I'm like all like it, I become narcoleptic. So like I have to have somebody else do that part for me, or I'm a people person. I like talking to people, so I do well, and I can come home with 200 trade shows after a day on the floor. So it works really well for me. If you're somebody that does not like meeting new people, does not like being in awkward conversations, doesn't like small talk, then I would say then that trade show no show can be a good thing, but I would adapt it slightly to make sure that before you're contacting these companies, that you're making sure that at least some of those what you're buying qualifications are being met. That's where people get really discouraged in wholesale, because they contact 50 companies and they fill out the applications and they do all of that, and then they start to run the numbers. They're like, out of 50 of these, none of these were profitable, and they're like, see, not profitable, this is stupid, I'm not doing this anymore. But it's really that we didn't pre-qualify who we were contacting first. It's not that there's not good wholesale sources, it's just that you were kind of barking down the wrong path, but you weren't getting enough feedback right away to say, we need to back up and try to move slightly to this level, to the right or to the left.
Absolutely. Caller said, do you do all that research while you are at the show or after you go back home? And my answer to that caller is that when we go to the trade shows, I do a lot of my research right in the hotel. I'm not sure what Robyn's answer is going to be, but I know that we do a lot of it right there, because we want to while we're there get the most of while we're there, and make sure that if we're able to research it and it works well while I'm up at my hotel, I'm coming down tomorrow and I'm purchasing the next day at the show. So I try to do it while I'm there, because a lot of times you got to remember too that these wholesalers and distributors, there's a lot of people they see at the show, and unless you're taking notes and remember who you talk to, which you should be doing, you're going to run into the problem when you get back saying, okay, man, I got this product, but I forgot who I spoke to. So it's better to take notes, write everything down, and do some of that research while you're there. I've done it in midday before. I've done it where at lunchtime, going up to the hotel, did some research, came back for the rest of the day at the show. So answer her take on that.
So we take the price sheet no matter how stupid the product looks. If I'm like, that is the dumbest product I've ever seen, we still take the price list. And what we do is we go back to the room and we split it into 3 piles. Trash, not now, maybe, and yes. And the things that when we kind of look it up, it looks like they're good. Or if we've done so if you're really, if you want to be like super cool, like James Bond cool, then what you'll do is you'll set your VA to start running up those disqualification processes to give you a list of exactly which vendors you want to hit, so you can get those price lists, and then you'll know. But if that's too much for you, then at least do this. And then so with the yeses, so anything that's like a big book, we put that as like a not now. honestly, we completely avoid distributors. So if you have Hasbro, like if you have Matchbox and Hot Wheel cars in the same booth, we just walk straight on by because they're a distributor, they're not the manufacturer, or they're a liquidator, and that's not something that we do because we're very focused on replens. What we do is, we focus on the things that just have one sheet. People be like, oh, should I order from them? They only have 3 SKUs. Those are my favorites because I can very quickly identify whether or not they're good. We take them, we scan the items to our virtual assistant. We bring our Fujitsu Scan Snap, which we love that thing and we've used it well. We scan it to our virtual assistants that we've trained and hired and have at the ready before the trade show. They run the data while we're having drinks and cocktails with friends. We usually get the data in the morning and we go over it during breakfast, and then we can go specifically back to those particular vendors and we can actually have a conversation with them. Or if we know that it's going to be a longer conversation, we're like, you know what, this isn't going to be our normal sell. We're going to really try to focus on this or something else. We'll go over there and try to just really make an impression on them, and and say, we want to talk more, but we know you're so busy right now, and we know you got to make sales. Is there a good time that I can call you when you get back? But if you can place that order at the show, that's going to give you an advantage because when you're at the show, there is an assumed level of professionalism. You've already paid to get to the show. You've been vetted to a degree by the show admissions, and so they're more likely to consider you a credible buyer than some Yahoo that just emailed them. And again, if you're emailing them from like crazylady@gmail.com, they're not going to respond back to you because your email is crazylady@gmail.com. So, that's kind of how we do it. We don't run everything at the show because you also want to make, especially at a show like ASD, or if there's other networking events with sellers, being able to have a really good conversation about what's going on in your business, maybe a pain point, or to get some advice, that can be just as valuable as the sources that you find. So it's important that you find time for both, and it's also important that you make sure you get a good night's sleep. Unless you're there primarily for networking and not for sourcing, I don't recommend the 4 a.m. partying and poker tables because you're not going to be fresh for the next day, and you're not going to make a great impression if you smell like a cigarette put out in a tequila shot, when you go up to talk to them. So, we go there. The reason people will be like, why does your suite always close so early? Because we always close our suite around 11. It's because we're here for business. And, I love hanging out with my e-commerce friends, but when I'm at ASD, I'm here for business. And I got to get some business done, which means I need my beauty rest because I need all the help I can get.
Hey, Robyn, we're going on a little over an hour here, and I don't want to keep you much longer. Guys, I told you in the beginning that Robyn has an offer that she put together for us for this webinar. I'm going to let her talk about that a little bit, and then I'll put the link up for you. I think we've talked about it a little bit, Robyn and I, before we came on the webinar, and I think what she put together for you guys is awesome, and I think you're going to like it when you hear what she has to say.
So I wanted to do something special for John, and so if you purchase our academy at the yearly price, the $399, what we're going to do is we're having several masterminds that are focused primarily on wholesale throughout the year. We're going to be doing 2 for ASD. We're going to be doing 1 for Atlanta, which is Atlanta Market Week, which is in January. And you'll get to celebrate my birthday with me, which is also cool. And we're also doing it for All Babies Children at Expo. So what we're going to provide, if you register within the next, if you register before, 24 hours from now, so that would be Tuesday. We'll give you Wednesday midnight PST. If you register with John's affiliate link, I'm going to give you access to that mastermind event, which will be in Atlanta. It will be a full day where we're going to talk about creating goals and strategies. Then we're going to be talking about wholesale. And then at all of these events, we're going to be having, we'll include a walk on the floor with, would be a group of, 3 to 5 people, and we'll do a quick walk on the floor where you get to watch us actually do it. And then we're going to provide like Navy SEAL backup for you. So we're going to kind of have office hours where you can come back and you say, this person said this to me, or, I got stuck on this. I don't know how to get past that. We're going to be there to help back you up. And we're going to help you do that. We're also going to help you prepare by doing a workshop where you train your virtual assistants to process data the way that you like it, so that you can get that stuff done overnight and you can have that system set up, tested, ready to go. So we're going to do all of that. And then there'll also be a Q&A before, and a Q&A, we're going to do a Q&A post each show. So you're able to, kind of have any questions that you'll have for follow-up. And you'll have access to our Academy for a full year, which includes a list of 200 trade shows, monthly reimbursement service. So we don't log into your account. You send us some spreadsheets. You can take out the ASINs and the product name, so we don't need to know any of your product mix. And we will actually create a list of the items that you need to be reimbursed for. We've had clients that have gotten back anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000 in reimbursements. So it can completely pay for itself if you haven't been using something yet. On top of that, you also we have inventory tracking sheets. We have information on everything from how to use Amazon reports. We're updating our Amazon SEO and sponsored products, and it's going to allow you to really give you all of the base knowledge. There's over 200 videos in our academy, and you have access to ask as many questions as you want in our private Facebook group that's monitored by myself, Rochelle, and Nate. So you're able to get any questions that you have answered. So if you're looking for kind of a friend and a team backup, then that's really what we wanted to offer. And I wanted to make sure it was a good offer, because I think John's a great guy, and I know that some of the amazing people that John has associated with these pro seller talks, and I just want to make sure it was something that would provide real value for people who are going into wholesale.
I think that's an amazing offer. I think just the mastermind thing alone, and what you're offering there is just tremendous. And if people don't know you, they should get to know you. And what I wanted to say, Robyn, before we close, and it's a pleasure having you here. I am going to give you the last word, but I also want to give you the opportunity, besides this, to, if anybody wants to reach out and follow you and find out anything about you, or wants to be able to just get in touch with you, how do they do that? And you can post that in the chat if you'd like.
So if you want to, if you just want to stalk me, you're like, I don't really want to contact you, I just want to creep on you. The best way to do that is to listen to my podcast, which is the Unstoppable Entrepreneur Show. It's available on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Stitcher Radio. There's over 130 episodes, so you can get a lot of content there is available. If you think that you think the Academy and this mastermind might be right for you, but you're not sure, I want you to send an email to excellence@bestfromthenest with the title John's Posse. You put John's Posse in the title, then I'll make sure that we can even extend out the deal a little bit. And what we'll do is we'll give you a chance to talk to Rochelle to make sure it's completely right for you. And by the way, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so it's pretty much as risk-free as you're going to get. Oh, and yeah, and if you just want to email me to say hi, then excellence@bestfromthenest is a great way to do that. You can also catch me on Facebook. I feel like I'm in every Facebook group and known to man. If there's ever a time I don't respond, then please keep tagging me. I turned off my phone for 3 hours today, and I had 110 in notifications. So if I ever don't respond, that's not like I'm so popular. It's just that I'm in too many groups, and I probably need to clean up my notifications a bit. So if you feel like I'm not answering you, be the squeaky wheel. Be bold. We love that. So keep asking until you get your questions answered. We love being a part of people's entrepreneurial stories. Like, this is what I want to do. This is my joy. And if you want to just see some testimonials, you can go to bestfromthenest /testimonials. And there are some videos, some audios that you can hear of people who have worked with us. So that, there's a lot of people in our industry, not so much John but there's a lot of people who are all hat, no cattle. We want to show you that there's a lot behind, and we are 100% committed to making sure the people that we work with actually get results. And everything that you put in, we want to help you get the results from that. And that's something that we're really, really committed to. So thanks for having me on the show, John.
Yeah, that was well said. I don't know how you could say anything better than that. So I'm going to let you get back to your amazing family, and always a pleasure talking to you, and I wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holiday. And again, Robyn, it was a pleasure having you here. God bless, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day and happy holidays.